What's up, everybody? Picture the world your great-great-grandparents were born into. For thousands of years, almost everyone farmed, made things by hand, and lived where they were born. Then, in about 100 years, all of that gets torn up. Machines replace muscle, villages empty into smoke-choked cities, and a brand new way of living is born. This is AP European History Unit 6, Industrialization and Its Effects, 1815 to 1914. Here's your map. Why Britain went first, the factory and steam revolution, how it spread, the messy new cities and social classes, the big ideas that fought over it, liberalism versus socialism versus Marx, and the second wave of steel and electricity. Stick with me to the end, and I'll show you the fastest way to lock this whole unit in before exam day. Let's get into it. Start with the College Board's favorite question. Why Britain? Why not France or China? It's a perfect storm of 5 things, lock them in. 1. Coal and iron, lots of it, sitting right in the ground. 2. Capital, profits from trade and banking ready to invest. 3. Colonies and a navy, giving Britain raw materials like cotton plus markets to sell finished goods. 4. An agricultural revolution. Better farming meant more food, fewer farmers, and a surplus of workers. 5. The enclosure movement, where landowners fenced off common land, pushed peasants off it, and sent them looking for work in the cities. Coal, capital, colonies, crops, enclosure. That's your answer. Now the engine of the whole thing. It starts with textiles, cloth. New machines like the spinning jenny and the water frame let one worker do the job of many, but they were too big for the home. So work moved out of cottages and into the factory system, where laborers came to the machines and worked on someone else's schedule. Then James Watt perfects the steam engine, and this is the game changer, because now you can power a factory anywhere with coal, not just next to a river. Steam plus iron equals railroads. The Liverpool to Manchester line opens in 1830, slashing the cost of moving goods and people. Factories, steam, railroads, that's the core of the first industrial revolution. Britain tried to keep its secrets, even banning skilled workers from leaving. It didn't last. Industrialization spreads across the continent, but unevenly, and the exam wants you to know who and how. Belgium and France go relatively early. Then Germany, after unifying in 1871, industrializes fast and hard, especially in coal, iron, and railroads, and eventually challenges Britain itself. Where private money was short, government stepped in to fund railroads and banks. Meanwhile, Eastern and Southern Europe, places like Russia and Spain, stayed mostly rural and lagged behind. The pattern? Industrialization moves west to east, and the state matters more the later you start. Now watch the cities, because this is where the human cost shows up. Workers flood in chasing factory jobs, and cities like Manchester explode in size faster than anyone can manage. The result early on is brutal. Overcrowded slums, no clean water, sewage in the streets, and disease outbreaks like cholera tearing through the poor. Lock in this cause and effect. Fast, unplanned urbanization equals public health disaster. But here's the turn for the second half of the century. Reformers push back. Governments start building sewers and clean water systems, and by the late 1800s, cities slowly become more livable. Problems first, reform second, that's the arc. Industrialization didn't just build factories, it built a new social order, and this is heavily tested. At the top of the new money is the industrial middle class, the bourgeoisie. Say bourgeoisie. These are the factory owners, bankers, and professionals who own the businesses and prize hard work, respectability, and family. Below them, the urban working class, the proletariat, say proletariat. These are the people who own nothing but their labor and sell it for wages. And here's the key idea Marx will grab onto. The bourgeoisie owns the means of production, the proletariat works it. New classes, new tension, remember those 2 words. Step inside the early factory, because the conditions drive everything that follows. Workdays ran 12 to 16 hours, 6 days a week, in dangerous, deafening, dirty buildings, paid by the hour with no safety net if you got hurt. Women and children worked too, often preferred because owners could pay them less, and kids crawled under machines in textile mills and hauled coal in mines. This is what fuels the backlash. Over the century, reformers win laws like Britain's Factory Acts, limiting child labor and shortening hours. And notice the social shift. As wages rose, the ideal of separate spheres spread, the idea that respectable women belonged at home, not in the factory. Harsh conditions, then reform, then changing gender roles. Now the battle of ideas, because every group had a different answer to industrial society. First, classical liberalism, the view of that new middle class. Its core is laissez-faire, say laissez-faire, French for leave it alone. The government should stay out of the economy and let the free market run itself. Thinkers like Adam Smith and David Ricardo argued that competition and self-interest produce the most wealth, and that wages and prices should be set by supply and demand, not by law. Politically, liberals wanted constitutions, voting rights for property owners, and protection of individual liberty. Free markets, limited government, that's liberalism. Hold it, because socialism is about to attack it head-on. Socialism is the response to liberalism, and the question driving it is simple. If factories make so much wealth, why are the workers so poor? Early socialists thought the answer was cooperation instead of competition, and the community owning the means of production instead of private bosses. The first wave are the utopian socialists, and you should know three names. Robert Owen actually built a model factory town at New Lanark with decent wages, schools, and humane conditions. Charles Fourier dreamed up cooperative communities. And Saint-Simon, say Saint-Simon, wanted experts and industry to plan society for the public good. Utopian, because critics called them dreamers, they had ideals but no real plan to seize power. That gap is exactly what Marx steps into. Now the heavyweight, the most tested name in this unit. In 1848, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels publish the Communist Manifesto, and they call themselves scientific socialists to mock the utopians as naive. Their big idea is class struggle. All of history, they argue, is a fight between the class that owns and the class that works. In the industrial age, that's the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. Marx predicts the workers will eventually grow class consciousness, rise up in revolution, overthrow the owners, and build a classless society with no private property. Lock in the trio. Communist Manifesto, 1848, class struggle. Whether or not the prediction came true, this idea reshapes the next century of European politics. But here's the twist the exam loves. The violent revolution Marx predicted mostly didn't happen in industrial Europe. Why not? Because workers found other ways to fight back. They formed labor unions to bargain collectively, demanding higher pay, shorter hours, and safer factories, and they used the strike as their weapon. They pushed for the vote, and as more working-class men got the ballot, they backed reform parties instead of revolution. And governments, wanting to keep the peace, passed real reforms. Factory laws, public health acts, even early social welfare like Bismarck's insurance programs in Germany. Reform, not revolution, that's how the West actually answered the worker question. Finally, the upgrade, the second industrial revolution kicking off around 1870. The first wave ran on coal, iron, steam, and textiles. The second runs on steel, electricity, and chemicals. The Bessemer process makes cheap, strong steel, building railroads, skyscrapers, and ships. Electricity lights cities and powers new factories and streetcars. The chemical industry, led by Germany, churns out dyes, fertilizers, and explosives. And new methods, like assembly lines and big corporations, mass-produce goods for a growing consumer society. This second wave makes Germany and the United States rivals to Britain, and it sets the stage for the tensions that explode into World War I. New materials, new powers, new world. And that's AP Euro Unit 6, Industrialization and Its Effects. Britain went first on coal, capital, colonies, crops, and enclosure. The factory and steam engine and railroads remade work. It spread east across the continent. Cities exploded and slowly reformed. The bourgeoisie and proletariat squared off, and the ideas fought it out. Liberalism's free market. The utopian socialists, Marx and Engels, and class struggle, unions and reform, then steel and electricity in the second wave. You just covered the whole thing. But here's the truth. Watching is not the same as knowing. Head to AIM 5 and practice Unit 6 for free, with instant feedback on every question. Links below. Now go get that 5, and I'll see you in Unit 7.